Thursday, August 5th, 2021. Mr. Kesh, would you like to continue with questions on the second half?
As usual, yes, please, if there are any left.
Okay, I'll remind our attendees here in the Zoom live meeting that you can raise your virtual hands and we can acknowledge you to open your microphone. We do have a couple of questions. We have one from God's Eye View in YouTube who says, and this question they asked before apparently, if our bodies are the perfect Magrav systems, why are we not being taught how to use our bodies in conjunction with our emotions to get the desired results?
Repeat.
Okay, I'll try that again. If our bodies are the perfect Magrav systems, why are we not being taught how to use our bodies in conjunction with our emotions to get the desired results?
We do it every day. We do it short term or long term, but we never want to confirm it. We get a breast cancer because of the emotion of the mother. We get prostate cancer because emotion of the child. We get joy and happiness and laugh because of our emotion of understanding something suits us. We do it all the time. It's just that how we see it. If you bring the emotion of the hunger into the fields emotion of the universe, you'll be fed by the universe. You don't need to eat. But how do you do that? You have to learn. And we have to learn how our body reacts to different gravitational field forces and inertial field forces in conjunction with our environment and in conjunction with our gans of the body of ourselves. The inertia of the matter state creates a matter, which is on this planet reference point of around 54 to 56, what we call 58 even, what we call iron. In the liquid state is between 14 and 18, which is around oxygen. In the gaseous level, we work around about 14 to 12. But we still consider it, because of the moisture in the air, more like the oxygen, the liquid. And if we can create such a non-inertia or just below inertial level to conversion to matter state, we can absorb every energy we need from the environment of our planet. This is why we have the air flow and the field strength of the earth. In some cases, in the atmospheric condition, hydrogen plays the inertial level. But that is universal common denominator, inertia, mass. But on Earth, in some points, hydrogen plays the inertial mass for conversion of energy to mass. And then you have to understand what is the strength of your emotion, what's the common denominator of emotion of the man. And that sits around the high level because it's a field only, there is no matter state to it, so it goes above iron, because it needs to be loaded on iron base field strength, which is blood, which first common denominator energy level of it becomes to be zinc. If you have common denominator base of copper, you get emotion of the muscles, but emotion of the feelings goes to zinc. Then you can absorb energies through emotion. Any other question?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kesh. There's a question in the Q&A from Salamia, who asks, what is the fundamental difference between inertia and gravity, taking into consideration that the inertia of the environment is the soul of God, the creator? Thank you.
There is a thing, especially Salamia, can you please stop posting links which are not reviewed by the Keshe Foundation and putting people through it? Do not post links which are not reviewed by the Keshe Foundation, because they can bring our website down or other legal matters. We block people who start doing this because we do not need this kind of inputs on the Keshe Foundation background, please. The difference between gravity and inertia is a lot. The gravity we know is the gravitational field of the Earth, because we are connected to it through our amino acid. The gravitational field forces of solar system, man has not understood yet. Then we have the gravitational field forces of the galaxy. Is different than what we think is once the man starts understanding this knowledge. And it has an order of magnitude to the speed of what we call universal field forces. And in order of magnitude is thousands of times larger than the speed of light. So when you speak about gravity, you have to indicate the periphery, where gravity of the position. And then the inertia comes into position in respect to that gravity, where the field forces allow the conversion of the energy to matter state. If you understand the work of the inertia and understand how it applies, then you will understand how you can move from energy to mass and the mass to energy. It's a two-legged bird, I call it. it is part of the structure of the understanding between different dimensions. You can use the what we call plasmatic inertia of Earth, and not it's primarily it's magnetical, but it's inertia strength of it, and transfer the totality of one object from to another in the matter state. In the coming time, in what we call transmutation systems of the plasma, we will teach this. You don't want a stone or a suit on Earth to arrive on the moon and have a different dimension. You want to transfer exactly the same thing and receive exactly the same thing on the other side. You transmute it or transport it through the field of the soul of the stone or the clothing, or in the matter state inertia of it. But would it still have the same effect on the moon? If I send a 1 kilo hammer out of here, would it be still having 1 kilo hammer on the moon? But in the matter state. But for example, when I send the hammer, the gravitational magnetic field of the moon is different. The hammer appears as a dust. But I still want to carry it, that there will manifest itself as a hammer. There's a lot to learn about transmutation and transportation of the field, the dimension of gravity or inertia. Gradually we open it. There is a link, there is an infinity loop link between the two. I hope I made it very clear. In so many ways, you can do in the future. Processes will teach you how. If you get the plasma of matter state, or what you call it, plasma state, like Earth gravitational magnetic field, and then you get the inertia and or what I call gravitational magnetic field of the inertia of the entity. There is somewhere in a strength field which you can match these and convert one or connect one into the other. And then you can convert the inertia into the parameters of a higher level, what I call orders into manifestation of the field transfer energy. Which in fact, what you'll get is what we call the manifestation of the matter state at this point. Not at the point of the inertial and gravitational field forces of the planet. If you can lock this, you can manifest it anywhere, because you can imprint it at any point, just add it on. It's a specific knowledge, a specific way of doing it. And you can return back to or add to. So in a way, you can transfer your physicality to the soul and the soul back to physicality. But then you have to understand, you're dealing with the plasma energy inertia and not matter state inertia. Any other question?
We had a question regarding the background for the workshop, which is done by Jedi Simon. Antonio asks, is this a representation of what plasma fields look like? Or is it just an artist's view of what these fields look like? I mean, it's an artist's view, obviously. He's asking if if the background image for the workshop is a representation of what plasma fields look like.
In a way, you have to look at it three-dimensionally. Here we are two-dimensional. You have to look at it as a plasma three-dimensional. This is a very crude way. Hopefully, the educational tools in the coming time will be three-dimensional, and then we can show it in real time. Any other question?
Okay, there's a question from Jefferson in the Q&A, who says, good morning, Mr. Keshe. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you. I'd like to congratulate you on your birthday and wish you a long and successful life. My question is, you told us that human beings do not have the technology to contain the virus and that the universal community would not interfere unless human leaders asked. I would like to know if we, the knowledge seekers, can be considered as a leadership on this planet, and if we can request this help from the universal community. If that is possible, I would like to ask for this help on behalf of all knowledge seekers and inhabitants of this planet. Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you very much, first of all, for everything else. The understanding of the use of technology for viruses has to be implemented by the governments. Because it is what we call dynamic energy fields, which crosses boundaries and nationalities, or whatever you want to call it. And the technology has to be in line with the common acceptance of the people and what I call at this moment government. And we soon will reach that point. But essentially, knowledge seekers have the knowledge to protect themselves from viruses. You have enough knowledge. You don't need a government to do it. Knowledge is given to you freely, and is in the hand of knowledge seekers. We don't need now to make the knowledge seekers new leaders, and then we get all the shambles of what we have with elected leaders. You can only lead your own soul and your own physical dimension, and that's all it is. You are a king of your own castle. The rest of the world does not need to have a kingship. And the responsibility of the knowledge seekers is to teach freely, unconditioned. It's for the people to decide if they want to use it, how they want to use it. Any other question?
It seems like in a way that we don't have to wait for the universal community to deliver this knowledge because we've already gotten it through you. Thank you very much. So
we all have the knowledge. Now we can use it the way we want. We don't have a patent office in the universe. We don't have a copyright. Knowledge is the right of every being in the universe to have, but with respecting it. So it doesn't make any difference where you are from and in what shape or form you manifest yourself. If you can comprehend the knowledge, and it's the knowledge of the creation, it's your right because you are created out of it. You cannot patent something which you already have. And now maybe you understand why the pattern doesn't exist in the universe. Any other question?
Mr. Keshe, we have an old familiar hand up right now from Armin. So Armin, perhaps you'd like to go ahead.
Oh my God, this guy is still around.
Hello,
Is he
Armin.
awake? I think he pressed the wrong button. Oh, he's awake.
I hear a voice.
Hear a voice.
How are you, Mr. Keshe?
Good morning, Armanjan. How are you?
Doing good. I have one question. When you nanocoat all the materials, can you nanocoat them together?
What do you mean, all the materials?
Say zinc, copper, iron.
Yep. You and I done many times of it. We do it in the factories. But you have to have different temperatures, or you embedded them in a high temperature, they all get nano-coated, but different nano-coating.
And one more thing, when you...
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Carry on. I'll answer.
No, you go ahead.
When there's ways of nano-coating, different ways of nano-coating, even with caustic. When you nano-coat material, you can do it embedded or non-embedded in the same materials as you want, because you create a space gap. If you take a copper, nano-coat it, and embed it in the dust of iron, you create a different nano layer than if you leave it to be nano-coated in free space. And these are used for different applications in different part of the industrial use. Carry on out.
When you put two nano-coating materials, zinc and copper together, so in the middle, and you create a condition of carbon, correct? Carbon-14.
You create a carbon with the emotion, but single emotion. If you use flat plates.
But nanomaterial is a carbon itself.
Yes, but the carbon has a carbon energy. But there's a difference between a carbon and a carbon with emotion. Or different strengths of.
A little bit explain that.
It's like you have two dead bodies and two bodies which are alive. The two dead bodies are just the metal condition. When you have two bodies who are alive, they have an emotion. And that's what it is, if I can put it that way. But then you have I'm gonna go on this because then Ahmad, somebody loves you. He says, what a blessing to hear Ahmad's voice. Oh, Doug McDonald. If you nano coat two plates here, yeah, I'm gonna do it. What is it called? If you nano coat the material, when you have two matter, you just have feel the strength of the matter. We still have a carbon residual field strength, but the matter stayed very weak. When you put two, you create a field plasma of a stronger field with a single emotion, with a single effect. When you coil it, you create cross fields in a plasmatic condition, which leads to the dynamic emotion. And this is what the difference is.
Okay, I understand.
Okay. And this is the matter state we always done. This is the single emotion field of the carbon. The carbon here can interact with the emotion of the man. One emotion, but you have to find out what the strength you found. But when you do a composite coils and then are coated in the shape of two, these fields, you see, this is the emotion of the man with the physicality of the man. The being coming from planet Zeus has a different material combination. Now,
Yes, of course, it's understandable.
it's a different emotion for him. And this is how it works. But in the universe, we all have one common, what you call it, dimension emotion that we all understand. And this goes back to the basic understanding of the emotion of the survival: laughter, joy, happy, not happy, and the rest of it. Essentially, in the universe has that common denominator.
Mr. Kesh, you always explain that life exists on this planet between copper and zinc.
Yeah.
So iron is become
Iron is the connection of the holding of the man to
physical.
this, yeah, to this planet.
And when you
Is
say composite,
what?
when you say composite, you have two composite spirals on a side,
Yeah.
which is iron and zinc.
Yeah.
So
The cup and the iron inside locks it to the presentation of the earth. And then whatever you have on top is the interaction of the fields of the composite in respect common base of iron with it and with its environment. You create a base common standing of iron from this point on. The strength of the gravitational field of the earth. None of the knowledge seekers, as far as I know, has ever tried something like a spiral nano-coated galvanized and a zinc galvanized, what do you call it, nano-coated. All of you have tried the copper, but not zinc. This will give you an amazing structure if you do nano-coated zinc and a spiral galvanized. Many of you, when you make this, you feel emotional. When you produce a coil of zinc nano-coated with a coil of galvanized, you have a composite effect of emotion.
Yeah.
And no one has ever done. This is one of the emotional units. And in the cup of universe, I have placed a zinc coil, or a galvanized coil. Because in the nano coating in the middle, this creates the emotion. And emotion with energy and feeling. None of you have ever done this. And that's why I say the cup of the universe carries the emotion of the man. You have the nano-coated zinc in the middle, and you have a galvanized zinc. The reason for this is for emotion.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
One
you,
more
Mr.
question.
Yes. How many times have you spoken to Jalal? He comes with 2 questions, now you go with 4. Come on, carry on.
Can you collaborate a little bit on salts? Because the salts
On what?
we use the salts.
Salts.
We always use sea salt. But if we're gonna add salts into it, so then it's totally changing the environment.
Yes.
But then if we want to change different environments, so what we do? I know we have to add a drop or 2, but still, if you want to change it back, so you can't because you already mixed it in the water.
What do you mean by that?
Huh? Let's say if
Right.
you want to add little bit potassium, then you want to change calcium, add, then you want to totally change magnesium, but you already added into the water, so you have to, how you going to change it different ways?
You change your water.
Mm-hmm.
Drain it.
Change
drain
the
it,
water?
You change the water or add to it and see what it does. Because there is something you have to monitor. What percentage you put. Every time you add a salt, even of the same thing as you change the salinity, when you add another salt, it's not this anymore. It's a new salinity. And what does salinity does in respect to the nano and the materials you have inside?
Mr. Kesh, we have to fill the cup up to the half a point. I was thinking, half a point, or not up to the high point.
It doesn't matter what you fill in, to what height. What is in the water behaves in a liquid state. What is above it, it behaves in the air system. Still you have,
That's what I wanna.
still you have a nano coating of the two and a plate of the two. What you see here is the reaction of the liquid state between the two. What you get here is the reaction of the atmosphere, what you call, but nano-coated atmosphere. Yeah, but that's why we create amino acid here. Is the inertia of the gaseous part. Here is inertia of the liquid part. That level.
Thank you, Mr. Kesh. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Armanjad. It's nice to see you back. Any other question?
Yes, we have Ed with the hand up here. Thank
We
you,
have
Armin.
somebody, there is somebody, it's written in one of the chats, is Palestine Constantine. He says, why do you say no one tried, didn't? Maybe I should show you pictures from 3 years ago. You should have discussed it, but you knew it creates an emotion. You tried it, but what did you get out of it? Did you understand you could, you create and you can create emotion with your cup? Many people make things and they leave it. I tried it, but did you understand what it does? Could you communicate with it through the emotion? But which emotion does it touches? Because different galvanization creates different emotion. A lot of people do things and say, oh, I did it, but did you get the result? What did you understand by doing it? You just look for ganses. But is this gans a gans of emotion? We have a lot of people who immediately when we release something, I did it, but what did you get from it? What did you understand it does? And then they claim, Mr. Kesh copied me. Well, we never copied you. You can make anything. As long as you don't understand what's the purpose of it, you just make something. Next, any other question?
Okay, Ed, would you like to go ahead there?
Oh, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Kesh. I would like to ask again about the inertia. I asked last week and I was trying to explain my concept of inertia, and you introduced an added concept to it. I was understanding the interaction of the plasma with its environment, and at a certain place there is a region of inertia, but then you stopped me and you said there's a third element, and to my understanding it was the state of physicality of the observer. And I've been trying to understand that. And I wondered if you could elaborate on that and if it had anything to do with the images that you showed just a few minutes ago.
What we understand is the process of creation of inertia is, as we said before, or put it this way, inertia is the process of manifestation of tangibility. Up to now, we know, or man thinks one thing, and that's the inertia which creates, for example, let's say copper, or we see zinc. We can have a composite inertia. And again, if the composite inertia has part of its strength in a plasma inertia and part of its linked, let's say, to zinc, to the matter state of it, or to a gaseous state inertia or a liquid state inertia, we see the manifestation of the matter state which is observed by us, plus some field effects. We know this with magnets, because we see the magnet, which is the physical, and then we see the field effect of its plasma inertia, which is the transformation and transportation of its fields, because we can feel it against another iron or metal or whatever, and we see it pulls together or it attacks to it or sticks to it. Inertia, what we call magnetic field, like we say the gravitational field of the Earth, is a composite inertia. Is the inertia of the matter state and inertia of plasma state. And this property exists with all and most of the elements in given conditions. If I can put it in another way, is that if we say you're a man from the Earth, and we have a man from planet Zeus, you're both looking at the space where the magnet is. As a man of Earth, you see the magnet. As a man of the planet Zeus, I see the field, but I don't see the magnet. Do you understand?
Yes, and that's kind of where I was headed last week, but I just couldn't. The reason I want to understand this is because I feel if I understand it, I can learn how to control it, or we as humanity can learn how to experience and control it. And so I don't see the practicality yet of that difference. I understand there's a difference in our perception of physicality from being here on Earth or being in the physical nature of planet Zeus. But how does that enter into our experience of creating the inertial fields here?
Partially in the long term will be in the applications of transmutation and transportation as we go deeper in understanding. and partially in manifestation of the matter state.
Okay.
It
What
is,
about this?
it is when mankind will learn more and more as we go through the transmutation of fields to transmutation of elements, which is another state of fields, but of the lower strength. When you increase the gravity and reduce the magnetic, or when you increase the magnetical and reduce gravity, you transmute between the matter state and the energy state. It's very much like a transformer. But this transformer has a specific characteristic.
Thank you very much.
As I said some times ago, with moving into the plasma technology and space technology, we come across new emotions which we don't have. We come across new feelings which we maybe felt it or knew it, but now we can define it because now our knowledge has increased. As I've said in other teachings, the dimension of the emotion of the man is not just happiness, sadness, and the rest. There are hundreds and thousands of different emotions that does not exist in the dimension of physicality. But once you move into the dimension of the fields, as an energy fields, as a plasma fields, we have to explain, I feel something, but I don't know how to put it. And these are emotions of the plasma. These are the emotions of the universe. And gradually we'll define them.
So is our learning to define these emotions within ourselves, that is how we will gain the ability of control of the plasmatic energies and these, the transference from plasma to inertia to physicality, these emotions, as we come to identify them and work with them? Is that the key?
Gradually, yes. It's like emotion of recognition in our physical life. Scientists tell us till age of 6, 7, 8, 9, depends on our development, children are not aware of a color or race. Even they see it. And even they feel it, but they're not aware of it because there's no awareness. Unless from age of 2 or 3, your father says, oh, this is black, you don't do that, this is white, you don't do that. If we leave our children in the natural world, they don't understand the emotion of the separation between color and races. It's an old movie, a beautiful one, where one of the famous 2 actresses, when they are children and they're sitting on a tree, and the white one says to the black one, can I lick you? Do you taste like chocolate? You remember that one?
I remember you referring to it, yes.
Yeah, so these are the emotions we are not aware of. Now we come into the world of the science of plasma. We become aware of new emotions. We have to define it. We put name to it. It's very hard to explain to someone the emotion of love unless you've fallen in love. The love to a child is to an animal, to a cat, to a toy. But when you fall in love with another person at the older age, it's a different meaning of love. So we define it when you are adult, you fall in love. Now with the new science of plasma, we come across new emotions, as I explained a few teachings away. And we have to define it. We have to be able to understand these commonly. These are the categoric things that we will do. And we go back into it. There are new emotions of colors will come into play without that we go into the understanding of new plasmas. When we break into further steps in the higher orders, where this will become a lot of work with a lot of people who travel in a dimension of the soul energies. You gather different emotion. It's like acceleration, which you cannot explain. If you're in a physical body, we can explain it. Emotions at a very high speed physical man is very, very different. And what you remember it when you arrive in the other point, when you come back to Earth and you take over your recreation of your physical body, you still carry those emotions. Now we have to define those emotions, because more and more people will go through it. We don't have a word in our present vocabulary for it. We have emotions of what we call vacuum. We have emotions of interaction of the fields of the space gap. You know, when you go into a free fall, how you feel? You say, my stomach comes up. I feel it's like a fear but not knowing. We have that kind of emotion in a high speed plasma. It stays imprinted in you, but it creates a different emotion. It's like a free fall, but it's not a free fall, because you know you end up in a destination.
And you can learn how to initiate that.
Yes, we gradually will. We don't need a machine. Initially we provide a machine, but then you become a free fly once you know how to do it.
I once saw a video many, many years ago of a person using their hands to do surgery. And so now I understand that this person somehow was unique in that they had identified the emotion that allowed them to use the plasmatic energies in this way.
We have many people with equal field balance with some people, and not with all people. The whole purpose of teaching is that we all reach to that point. It's not that they're understood. They can maybe go with their hand in your stomach, but not mine, because it's different composition. You understand? The whole purpose of teaching is that we all commonly can understand and adjust to that point. And this is how we commonly bring it up. We point it out, we settle it, and we have many, many emotions, enormous amount of emotions to be to be identified, to be named, still to come.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Any other question?
I was just showing some pictures that were sent to me actually from Cristiano, I think the name was, from some of your earliest work, or earlier work, I should say, Mr. Keshe. These were from the patent application, actually.
These are the parachutes, and we do a lot of other tests with it. How we position these, if you look at them, even if you look at the color of the hot glue, has an effect on it. There is enormous amount of technologies have been tested. I'm not a theoretical scientist. They are what we call practical scientists. So we do things, we observe different things, we observe different understanding. One of them is what you see, for example, that white wire with nano-coated wire coming out of it.
I was just going to point that out. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to say that's special, not just a piece of wire sticking out there.
If you strip this wire all the way, it's nano-coated. All the way through, 100%. This is a way, certain ways to do the wire is fully nano-coated inside. We developed this technology for a specific applications. World of Electronic has not understood this yet. This is an amazing material. You have fiberglass communication. This is a superconductor in there, but you have to know how to use it. This is a technology which I put it there. People don't understand it because it's not there, but in some teachings I refer to it. We have a guy in the chat just trying to prove he is done whatever. You have to prove it and understand it yourself. We are not here to prove anything. We just share knowledge. In so many ways, if you look at some of these parachutes, you see the copper wire towards us is not copper looking. It's a darker looking copper. It's already been nano-coated by the material inside and outside. This is a plasmatic nano-coating. And this is a superconductor coating. Just if you, let me see if I can unwrite on it. If you look at this wire here, it's not copper. It originally is pure copper, but the plasmatic flow between inside and comes out and interacts with the fields which are around the thing, nano-coated. These are one of the first plasmatic nano-coatings we did. The same with here. This is not just black here. We used to strip this to use it for a specific use. Initially, when we did this, if you have seen, I used to have a Christmas tree. I used to be a magician, a small Christmas tree connected to a battery. And it used to flash, you put on a Christmas light. We used to use these wires to connect the positive and negative together and show that we can connect the battery with the strip wires to a Christmas light and it still shines. in the world of present knowledge could not be done. This is a graphene at the highest order, because I knew how to convert it to graphene for other things. And if you do this connection between the Christmas tree and the battery in a specific way, you will find out that your battery starts cooking, literally cooking. Your battery is heated up because the nano-coated wire now absorbs energy from the environment. It's not that the resistance goes higher in the battery. We used to have it, let's say, 2.8 volts. When we started it, we go to 3.6 volts while the light shines. This is understanding how technologies, how things you put and they work. If you go back to the other picture you just had with the voltmeter on, if you can bring that up, it's to you it's just a voltmeter, but to me has a lot of meaning. Look at this sign here. This negative sign. What does it mean? It's not consuming. That electrode is charging. And the bottle keeps a different, what we call composition, keeps a different energy field plasma in it. If you go between these two and you see negative, means there's a field absorption and you got gravitational field here. And after a point, this becomes gravitational, this becomes charged. And when you run too long with this, these meters get totally damaged. And because the plasma, the whole inside of the system gets plasmazed. But the energy source from this system comes from the plastic, especially this button here and this here. What we see in this is amazing. When we explain it to some ignorant scientists, they could not understand it. Maybe now you understand it. You create a plasmatic gravitational field flow in this gap. And you already put caustic, which have nano-coated. The environment of the bottle now is totally plasmatic. It's not anymore air, even the door is open, cap. But you have created a gravitational magnetic field, which we use the caustic, which is weakened nano-coated the wall of the plastic. Now this gravitational magnetic field, it starts doing a wonderful job, which is it starts pulling the carbon from this into here and the carbon from here to here, because it's a plastic CH bond. And with it, because of the environmental field here, if you put a little bottle here, you'll be collecting pure hydrogen from the composition. And then what happens, you see this disappears, you don't have any more cap, and you see a big hole here. And strange enough, only happens with a certain brand of drinks, plastic use. The pepper use gives this effect. And I used to produce beautiful hydrogen plasma from this. And they use millions of megawatts in CERN to create that plasma. The cleverness of these kind of magics is understanding how the system works, understanding that you work in a total plasmatic condition. And this is why I always refer to work in one or the other. And if you work between the two, understand which one is which.
Mr. Keshe, could you explain a little bit about the difference between the carbon as a nanocoating and the copper oxide or copper as a nanocoating, and which environment, or how do we look at that? If we look at it plasmatically, then but then the actual carbon molecule, the carbon element, is removed from the bottle. It goes onto the mushrooms apparently, and the hydrogen liberated. But
Yeah,
could you tell us the difference between that? Explain a little bit.
Yeah, you see the blackness you see here, as we said many times, is that black is 40 to 50,000 layers. When you have the carbon coming from the plastic, it embeds in this, in different places. And it has to come in the right time, and the nano layer has to be in the process of expansion. And this carbon is graphene, because is in the status of gaseous of the carbon, or what we call the odor condition. And this bottle was the creation of all the problems of the Keshe Foundation. Because in the company in Belgium, which is stealing all the nanotechnologies around the world and is part of the criminal organization of the Belgian government, and he headed by the most criminal lawyer who became the head of European Space Agency, is made this a criminal, because they said you use a gamma rays to embed gas inside nano layers, because the knowledge wasn't there. They understood what it can do, but they tried to steal. This, from when this layer is created from the carbon, hydrogen is too thin to be embedded and tested. So partially we have GANs of what we call plasma of hydrogen in these layers as well. We've seen it in our spectroscopy. But essentially, the carbon from the head gets embedded in between fields of the copper, and then it becomes the graphene of it. This was the first time ever in the world graphene was created, this is the report of it. If you go back on that graph, which you showed, it's from this parachute. And in it, this is the conformation of the graphene. First time ever we could confirm the existence of the graphene. And it's in the report. And this became how we became a terrorist. And then they found out he has a lot of values. We had the king on top of us wanting the technology because the husband of the son of the king, his husband, wanted this to be his because he read the patent. Now they understood the patent which we submitted was read, had the backing for its scientific technology. These are the principles of developing new technologies. If you look here, it's just what do you call it? A piece of copper. There is no parachutes, even here, because we wanted to test a dynamic, because this parachute has a sphere. This parachute is, this wire is a spherical plasma. It's a big difference. This is the reason we created this kind of position. And if you look, they've all been placed when they were copper. None of these parachutes ever been pre-nano coated. They were placed in a bottle, sealed. Then we add what they used to call at that time magic liquid, which is the caustic, and let it cool down and empty it and leave it. These here, they all used to be all copper. And now you see they're all nano coated. This is a plasmatic nano coating, which nothing can stop it. And this is a spherical plasma. These are cylindrical plasma. And because of this, we could write the book number 2. How plasma changes from a spherical to cylindrical and travels. You can physically show it. Because there's an energy transfer, because these are all copper, there is a transfer of energy. And then when you look how each electrode at what speed they nanocoat each other. It took years to develop an environment that you could physically show it can be done in a simple way. And you can you can experiment this with the space technology. You can use, if you understand this, to create different fields of the space positioning to see how fast you travel. But this will teach in the future. Matter, matter to light to matter to light to matter. And if you look, we measured these are little pins we put deliberately in intervening points to create special conditions of measurement. What is the other question?
I was going to ask if you've ever considered rotating this reactor or similar.
Oh, I've done a lot of things with it, yes.
Because then that hydrogen, maybe that would be sort of trapped in the center that way where the lightest gases would be, and you'd be able to play with it more.
The hydrogen does not stay in that level. The hydrogen very rapidly, if you do not know what to do with it, leaks from these boundaries under the knees of it. Usually we get a lot of helium from this composition. We learning from this, when you go to these flower shops, or you go to children toy shops where they say helium balloons, before application of the helium into the balloon, if the balloon does not have a helium sealer, it will go through the balloon. The balloons which are specifically designed to hold helium gas are sprayed with, it's like a colorless water. They are lined with it, and then they empty it, and then they're blown up and they stay. The real helium balloons, which are use this material, they never go flat, because helium can go through the layers of the plastic. It's so fine. But when you put this paste, it's not a paste, it's like a water, it blocks helium transferring. And this we used to use on this to stop the leakages of helium, and then you get a different effect in the bottle.
Now, where would the helium come from? I'm wondering.
The helium is pardon?
Go ahead.
The helium comes from this environment here is a new world for itself. It's a plasmatic world. And the hydrogen from the system creates partially tritium-2. It's a composition, the way when you break up the plastic. This is one of the properties of PEP. And then it allows the, what you call, combination of tritium and deuterium to create helium. And then you get a single hydrogen and a single helium atom. It's a very fine way, the way it works, because you have a very interesting point. You are in a plasma condition, because now these are all nano-coated. You have a very little patch here, and you have a very big mass here. These interact in fields, because here you have a small amount of nano-coated of a PEP. Here you have a huge amount of it, and the field interaction creates a vortex of winds here, plasmatic winds. If you work with many of these bottles, you will understand there is a ratio in the amount of what you call breakup of the lid and the expansion or the hole in the bottom. There's a direct correlation. They correlate very, very perfectly. You can adjust it, you can do it. There is a ratio, how you do it, and because they create a field flow. And bottles which don't have this, you don't get this. These are different things. Later on, we published this and used by a company, because this, what do you call it, here is nano-coated, nothing sticks to it. And this knowledge, then later they use it now in ketchups. If you remember, fluids couldn't run very easy, you had to shake it. Now they nano-coat the bottle and the liquid flows very smoothly out of it. But nano-coating is done the same process as part of the nanomaterial they use in it. The technology we release has been used in many, many diversities. Because now the scientists read, watch, and they develop different things how this applies.
Let me show a couple of more pictures, Mr. Kesh, while we're on this topic of the oldies but goldies, you might say.
Yep. It's not this on the knowledge part of how the technology has been set up on. You keep your blue because that's it. You see these parachutes, I call them, and free spaces have a defined, what do you call it, shape. For example, if you look at this, it's not a straight bar. If you look at here, you have a straight bar. This is what I said, what I explained before. If you look, some of these have silicon on top of them. If you look, these are not all black. Even though they look some no nano coating on, they have minimum layers of. If you look at the box, you will see even how the shapes are different. And if you look at this, look at the colors of them. They all should have been nano coated. It takes weeks and weeks to set a test like this. And with this, we create a field flow. And when you create a field flow, you have a central gravitational field here. If you look at these two next to each other here, that absorbs energy even through the box, through the wall of the box. This is how you feed your soul. And this is, as we call it, the empty box of universe. It's taken ages and ages to do. If you look at some of the pictures, maybe you understand more of. I explain to you, you see it. If you look, some are on a straight line and some are on an angle line, deliberately put that way. We have one or two that the ends are clockwise or anti-clockwise. The parachutes, if you look at here, there are different heights. Is to create the turbulence of the field. Because the box itself has been nano-coated with caustic. This is a British lunchbox. And it came from my previous business life, which it came to here. We had it so we could run a test. The original, this box had a cup in it. What do you call it? Teacup, tea mug. And it was a promotion by a butter producing manufacturer. And they couldn't get it marketed, the promotion failed, so there were millions of them we bought. And the cups were sold as a teacup in the market. The boxes were used for another company which I used to own, which is what do you call it, the wetties. The wet napkin, what do you call it? For cleaning children's butt, I call it. We use these boxes for because we had millions of them to get rid of them as a packaging. And the leftovers are here. A very famous brand in the world. And now it's become a box of the universe.
Thank you for that, Mr. Kesh. Very interesting information there, and some information that people that are new to the Kesh Foundation teachings, need to know that this is not something that's brand new. This nano coating process that you've been at it for well over a decade. This is from what, about 15 years ago? 2000.
More or less, yes, 2005, 2000. You see, I use a lot of different shape of hot glue, even from outside or inside. There's a difference between inside, when you look is a white, these are silicone. The ones outside is a hot glue, and you see I cover some of the pins fully with the glue, very small tip left. And hot glue has been used extensively in development of technology. From earlier, when they came out, we could see because of its composition and an application. And I've seen recently, one guy says, Mr. Kesh copied me, and what's his name? The guy, we gave him a platform to talk twice, and then now he'll become the god in competence. But this is how you use every material for its own application and implication. And as I said, especially this is very, very interesting. And you see it here. They all should have been nano coated, but they're not. Because it depends on what temperature, how you use a hot glue, it gives you sealing capability and capacities. And it never leaks, or you allow it to happen.
Mr. Kesh, what are there seems to be like two parts to the electrodes sticking out. There's the white part, and we can see the copper on this one, for example.
These are little electrodes we use primarily. It's not electrode, is the end of the wire. You understand? We used to put end of the wire, and we put the wire in it, and we crush it, and then we use the ring as a, what do you call it, connection point. We put the screws through it. I use these for the to stabilize the, what do you call it, the pins.
Oh, okay, I see.
You understand? They just gone through, the wire goes through it, and in a way you can use it for measuring current and voltage or whatever you want with your meter. But primarily they're used to stabilize the pins not to move and stay in the position you want inside.
Okay, good, thank you.
What do you call it? They have a name for it. It's just a little pieces that you usually solder the wire to it at the end of it sometime, or you pinch it, and then you connect that one through a screw in a plug. This is a very interesting condition for understanding plasma technology, because at that time nobody could understand that nanomaterials create their own environment, a plasmatic environment. You can create huge possibilities if you understand the work of the systems. Yeah, that's another one. Kodak. You remember when there was a company called Kodak? This is how they used to sell the films. It wasn't like now you could take a shot on the camera. We had to take the film out, get it developed, and you had to send it to them with this pocket that the light doesn't go into the film and spoil it. And this is a battery. This is one of the first plasmatic batteries we produced. This is still going. I saw this one very recently in one of the archive boxes. Each one has a different capability. This bottle produces, I think, if I remember, 4.8 watts constantly for years, 0.02 amps. This, when you see that 544 is one of the pins with the other, but in totality, if you connect it, it gives you about 4.8 volts because you have a gravitational system on some pins and magnetical on some. You see these pins that are still here again. You see them here? These are to stabilize the position of the pin in the inside the container. Somebody called them the connectors.
Yeah, wire connectors, basically.
Wire connectors, yeah. This is in the center, there is a pin, and this is a plasma battery. A true plasma battery, and it's still running. If you check it, it still runs. It'll produce for centuries. You see, this is half a volt. But some points go 1.2, some points go 1.2. You see no signs on this one, which is a positive gain. And the other one is showing minus negative. So you go total balance of what is created, what is absorbed. We used to use a lot of these Kodak containers. We used to have hundreds of them and used for different purposes. It's used for some of the flight system. So originally they are built and you replace this into, that's why when the Belgians came, they couldn't do anything with it. This goes into the shock absorber position of the car and can lift the car. This is a gravitational system inside it. That's all you need to lift one corner of a car, no more. And I built them, they were there. It would have taken me less than 10 minutes in Eindhoven to position them in the place for the car to lift. But it needs a specific material which was confiscated. You don't need more than this in the what do you call it, in the position of the shock absorber. If you have a car, you place 4 of these in the center of the place where the shock absorber and 1 in the middle. Small capsules, they lift accordingly. And our people said he never had a system. These are the flight systems. So simple. So because the feeder of the plasma, as you see, is these electrodes. It feeds itself, it maintains it. And by interacting in a specific way with some of them, you increase and decrease the gravity. Very, very simple. You see, there it is. You can embed it in anything. I cannot reduce my screen somehow. Yep. Got it back. These are the original plasma that would have been embedded in these batteries. Then you can see you can make it as miniature as possible. They are totally plasmatic systems.
Mr. Kesh, was there liquid or vapor condition inside of
It's just total
plasma?
plasma. You initiate the ignition and you close it. You initiate the ignition of the plasma. There's a specific way. If you look at it, it has a seal underneath of it. And then you seal it. You can see the seal. If you look, it's total plasma condition. We don't allow anything in. There's a seal here. Again, this is what do you call it? Combination of a number of different materials. It's not a normal silicon or hot glue. Developing materials to hold plasma has taken me years. Sealing a metal into a plastic without leakage of any plasma or gases. It took months to develop just the sealant here to hold these. Because if you don't do it properly, the helium, or what they call the gases, leak very quickly, and it's a nanomaterial, nothing sticks to it. And it goes loose. But for years, still there, nothing has changed. You brought back a lot of memories.
Well, thanks to Cristiano, who's been he's been feeding me images here.
So you have a collaborator in the background.
Yes, we have a spy in the background that's helping out. I think these are all from the patent application, so far as I know. And we look at there's another image here. Of the actual patent application. And we can see the similarity with the Kesh 9-volt battery configuration right there at the beginning of this. Well, it's probably over 100 pages on this patent, as the other one is as well. For those that haven't seen this image before, it can be quite profound, actually.
These are the first plasmatic reactors, double reactors. The center creates gravity and the outer creates magnetical, or in reverse.
And there's the original patent with the configuration of the reactor, which might be in a larger configuration than the micro reactor.
This was completely studied, analyzed for 3-4 months by leading European, space organization in Belgium, which is again has a criminal lawyer inside it and is partially owned, used to be owned by the same group, and was confirmed that it was called the first gravitational, if I remember, gravitational generator, plasmatic gravitational energy generator. And it creates both gravity and magnetic. It compresses the plasma. And then it's a combination of fields inside it, which then leads to creation of gravity and energy release. The energy comes when the gravity pulls the energy from its environment inwards. It's very strong. If you look at this pattern, very interesting is the combination of the materials which are given here. If you open it up, can you open the picture of the center? Can you open this picture by any chance? Make it larger.
No. Oh, I'll just make the picture larger. Yes, I think I can do that. Just a minute.
Make it larger. If you take it to the center of the page, if you look, there is a huge amount of information in here. You have a circular field. You have a dynamic field. You have fields which are going out as a creation of what we call like atmosphere, magnetical. You have huge amount of magnetic gravitation. This is a dynamic force field. You have creation of the turbulence in a plasma. You have here, if you look, position of the magnets. There was a reason for this at that time. You have argon, you have helium, you have hydrogen. And if you look in the bottom of it, you have Ne. This was made, initially proposed to be made of stainless steel. Diameter 1 meter is in the proposal of the production. We looked at this just to make this bulb was something like $100,000 to $200,000 at that time. But if you look here is, and read the pattern, argon, helium, hydrogen. The hydrogen in the presence of the argon and the helium in the vacuum, in the presence of magnetic fields, does wonderful things if you know what to do with it. Now with gases, you do much better, but this is not the human plasma conditions, the atmospheric plasma condition. It has different characteristics. These channels is to feed in different kind of gases into it. And the scientists in the company in Belgium, which is now sold to British Ministry of Defense, confirmed the system works first by the UB, University of Brussels, theoretically after 7 months. And when we put it physically in the hand of the mechanics and medical scientists to build it. After 3 months, yes, it's feasible, and it makes energy. And that's when my problem started with Belgian monarchy. They wanted to steal it. I was told when the physical demonstration scientific was supposed to be shown, I cannot attend the meeting because that time the prince, now the king, was coming to see it, and it was supposed to be sold to the British, the company, to confirm the king, yes, that we got the technology from Cash. And they sold the company for 10 million euro, 10 million euros to the British government. And the British government got the system without the key, and they wanted their money back. You couldn't cheat Cash to get the key. The only key for the space technology sits in the hand of the Iranian government. They're too clever to cheat. And now they're permanent agencies out of the Keshe Foundation. Now we'll see the development and delivery of this technology, more or less the same kind of reactors, but in a more advanced shape, with the backbone of the system, which will be delivered to go to Owen in June of next year. This is a 3-core reactor, not a 2-core reactor. It's all the same kind of a structure, creating non-magnetic fields, how it does. And these are the tanks and what it needs to be fed, what are made. When you work in a vacuum condition, which you, most of you don't have the facility to do, go back to the picture before, please. Yeah, here, stop it. No, even there you can. If you go to the back, the other one will be easier. Yep, stay there. You see here, these dots. Each of these dots, if you see, has a number. And according to the atomic mass, in a vacuum condition, the heavier goes outside, where in a normal condition, the heavier falls in the middle. This is why the body of the man works so efficiently. Because it's in a vacuum, our skin, which is more solid, goes to outside. And the rest of things, according to the structure of the radiation and magnetic field, go into the different position in the body of the man. And then you have changes, which is, for example, in the rib sits outside, but in the bone, in the leg, the bone sits in the center. It's a creation of different fields and different condition of the radiation. These pictures, if you understand, has a lot of meaning. It's very in-depth understanding. You have to understand from thermodynamics to nuclear to materials as a metallurgist, and everything else to know exactly where you put what material, what thermodynamics, what the flow of the field and the plasma. And this is a knowledge carried by one man. And everything works perfectly. What are you finding more in this mayhem of pictures?
Well, there was a question I just had now looking at this. Every time I see these images, I seem to see something different. Let me see if I can make it bigger here. Now this, okay. I was wondering about these little arrows and circular thing here. Is that just on that outer layer? Is there something special there? And is that related to? Well, go ahead and answer that first. I have another part to
Yeah. You see, we have this picture in a bigger way is on the back of the book number 3. And in one of the pictures, I think in book number 3 too. When you go from layer to layer, you create vortex dynamic layers in between them. It's not just going around circular. You got the turbulences where the friction of the body holds one end of the plasma and the other end of the plasma goes into vortex. We have it between all layers. You understand? You have a circular rotation of the plasma of the gases because of the physical rotation. And then at a certain point, doesn't matter what the speed you go, then nothing changes in circular rotation. It's around about 2.47, 2.5 K. And then you have the pressure boundary pressures, which push and create vortexes. And in the universal condition, it creates new galaxies and universes.
Okay, so that
If you look in the center, read the word which says, it's very, very small. It says plasma.
plasma. Mhm.
We created the plasma in a specific way. That's what it's called, plasmatic gravitational magnetic generator. If you could tap into the position of the field here and here, you can collect megawatts. And each layer stays separate. Argon, neon, helium, they stay in their own layers, in their own balls. And there's a lot of things we can do with this. And then we feed again gases here outside. In the Iranian nuclear reactors, space technology, we use other spaces specifically for certain things. You see, you look at this in a spherical shape. But now you look at it as a semi-spherical looking from the top. Now you see a UFO. You understand? You're looking at a cross-section of the side view. But if you look at it, the cross-section of the top view, this is exactly what you get in a UFO, and this is what we use. In the round test, we specifically created radioactive metal condition in these reactors. This creates lift motion, huge amount of understanding of the fields and direction of the creation in the universe. Then we could control the feeds. So we could expand the neon to pressurize the argon, or we could reduce helium to bring pressure on the plasma, because these are space gaps for each layer. Each pipe will feed one kind of gases. If you look at some of the physical reactors we have, they have 3-4 different channels of piping energy or gases in. Here we feed the gases, and then we convert the gases into plasma into the center. Shall we call it a day?
Yes, quite a performance. Thank you very much, Mr. Kesh.
Thank you very much for today. And I hope we'll see many, many good things will come out of the process will become very, very easy once we send more and more of it. And hopefully with what I explained today and the past, we start making a picture in making a system which makes it possible for man to travel the depth of the universe, both in the condition that his soul and physicality can survive and be fed and be looked after. Thank you very much for today, and see you hopefully next week.
Okay, thank you so much for today's workshop, Mr. Keshe. And thanks everybody for your questions and comments. Let's see, we do have the testimonials group coming up on Monday. I'm just trying to find the date here. I think it's the 8th. No, it's the 9th. Monday, August 9th. Second Monday in August is our testimonials group, and people are invited to attend that and show your experience of the plasma technology. Now, what else do we have? Is there any other announcements that you'd like to make, Mr. Keshe? Anything coming up?
No, thank you very much. It's just that we're still going ahead with the conference of the 4th and the 5th in Linz, and agricultural conference in Linz again on the 3rd week of September. But there could be developments coming up due to our what we call it, involvement with different aspects of the geopolitics and diplomacy. If that comes, we'll change a lot of programs rapidly in response to these changes. I think we have received a new hope, and hopefully this hope will bring us a lot of joy. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So this has been the 392nd Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Thursday, August 5th, 2021. And I'll play some outgoing commercials to end the workshop, and see everyone next week. Bye for now.